one defining moment. The universe emerged out of nothingness like a bright idea. And so has each one of us. Born into this world unique and gifted. A masterpiece cast like never before and never after. A magnificent work of art. And each one of us an artist too, eager to paint the canvas of life. Remember as a child, you woke up each morning full of wonderful ideas and dreams. Dreams where everything was possible. You wanted to change the world and you believed that you could. Believed in superheroes and believed you could be one. And then it all slowly slipped away. But that does not mean that superheroes do not exist. These heroes stepped out of nothingness into greatness. They were ordinary folks who wanted to make a difference, who believed in their dreams. They were just like you and me, except where everyone else saw the rubble, they saw a palace standing. And when everyone else was enveloped with the darkness of self-doubt, they saw light within.
I am Simerjeet Singh, and I believe that the same light flickers in you and in me. I also believe that you have everything you need to reach the pinnacle of your success. And I'm here to tell you that the only person standing between you and your success, between you and your dreams, is you. And it can all change in the moment the voice inside you says, yes, I can. Yes, I can live with passion and purpose. Yes, I can lead. Yes, I can make a difference. I am the artist and the world is my canvas. I am the superhero I once believed in as a child. And that defining moment is now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Simerjeet Singh with another episode of the Beginner's Mind series. I was asked by a very accomplished gentleman recently, how much time am I spending reading books these days? And to be honest with you, I have not been able to manage much time to read books. However, I've been learning, and I've been learning a lot by interacting with the wonderful people that we've been bringing on these series, who've been so kind to spare their valuable time to answer our questions, to help me, sort of take care of my insatiable curiosity about how did other people start their journeys and how did they accomplish what they have accomplished. What can we learn from them? And our gorgeous, accomplished guest today is none other than Deepti Pathak. She's an executive coach, leadership development facilitator, and NLP practitioner from the UK. She empowers leaders, companies, ambitious individuals, just like everybody who's watching, to achieve personal mastery so that they can 10x their personal power and surpass all their limitations to achieve their personal and professional goals. She left a fast-paced corporate career of over 13 years and decided to pursue her passion. We will pick her brains on that. For all of you guys who feel you're stuck in your jobs and you want to do something else, we will ask Deepti what prompted this, how she made this change happen. And she started her people development firm in 2018. Since then, she has helped over 30,000 people learn tools of personal mastery, leadership, and personal accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm round of virtual applause to our wonderful guest today, Deepti Pathak. Deepti, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Simerjeet, for having me here and for such a wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, likewise. And let me also remind the viewers, this is not just a one-way thing. We would love to have a chat about things that are common, things that so that our viewers can find answers to their questions that may be lingering on. And so it often happens. You do not walk into an interaction with certain things that are already set in your mind, but you go with the flow and a lot of wonderful things emerge. Deepti, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking out the time for this interaction. I really appreciate it. recorded, and I am confident there's going to be a lot of value addition for our viewers. For those of you who are watching this on LinkedIn, if you've ever seen these videos with a white background popping up with wonderful visuals and these subtitles and very effective short videos, they come from Deepti Pathak. She's very consistent with them, and I do request you to go check out her website as well as her LinkedIn profile. You'll find great value out there. Deepti, without wasting much time, 13 years in the corporate world before you started your own firm in people development. Tell us what prompted it. Were you bored like I was in my previous job? What prompted this shift? What were the challenges you faced? And what words of inspiration you might have for young viewers right now, especially?
Simerjeet, I loved every job that I've been in. To be honest, I thoroughly cherished my corporate career. I had no plans of moving out. I always had this desire. I knew that I meant for something bigger. I knew that I meant to eventually go out. But let's go back. Let me take you through the journey. Mm-hmm. For me, the journey of personal growth and personal development started very early in my life. Okay. As you're already aware, I lost my mother at the young age of 16. Mm-hmm. The plan was to become a doctor. Okay. I come from a family of 2 generations of doctors. And that was the plan for me too. So I've taken up biology, PCMB, and I was very ambitious, very studious, quite intelligent even then, always in the top 15 in the class. But unfortunately, that incident happened when I was in the 11th grade, when I started with my 11th standard.
You lost your mum when you were in your 11th. Okay. Sorry to hear that.
Absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate it. And but naturally, being that young age, it was a very traumatic experience. I did not handle it very well. Followed by that, there was deep depression. There was anxiety that lasted for almost 2 years. Suddenly, from being the top performer in the class, I was in the bottom half, in the bottom 10. So my entire 11th grade, my entire 12th grade went into a very dark time wherein I was not able to open up to anybody. I was not even able to share my trauma with anybody, not to my father, not to my family, not to anybody. I was just sinking within. At the end of 12th grade, though, at the end of 12th grade, though, what happened is that I realized that I'd lost my lifelong dream, that I couldn't become a doctor. I didn't clear any of the entrances. I did not get through any examinations, and that was a massive setback. That is the time when I truly realized that I'm wasting my life away, that I cannot do this, and I need to pull myself out of this place. I need to change how I think. I need to change how I behave. More than anything else, I realized that I was doing injustice to my father and my mother, who so truly believed in me. My mother was a doctor. She was a PhD. And she was a writer, in fact, a professor at the Delhi University. Wow. So somewhere or the other, she was the one who nudged me to say that, I need to come out of this place and I need to save myself. I need to go back and get back on my feet. That is where my journey of personal growth really began. That is where I found self-help. I started learning. I started practicing.
When you were this started in around when this incident happened, when you lost your mum, and you were 18 years old. So you found how to rescue yourself, found a way out, how to heal yourself and come out of it. So one of your biggest setbacks, Deepti, proved one of the biggest triggers for your self-growth, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I deeply believe, Simerjeet. In fact, a lot of my teachings are centered around it, that the worst times in our lives are actually not happening to us. They're happening for us. They're really happening for us so that we can discover ourselves, so that, we can really learn the things that we never thought we otherwise would, do the things that we never thought we otherwise could. Those 2 years of trauma really pushed me to reinvent myself in ways that I never thought I possibly could, or I would have otherwise also. I wouldn't have taken that sort of effort. By the time that I was 18, after living through that episode, that dark time for 2 whole years of my life, I realized that I have to do this for myself. And that was the time when I started off. I still remember that I started with the very basic esoteric forms of positive thinking, and then slowly I began learning that, if positive thinking could get us everything, then we'd all be thin. We'd all be rich, we'd all be famous.
Right, all be happy.
Absolutely. So that's what I discovered. I started digging deeper.
It takes more than
knowledge,
that.
Absolutely. I started digging deeper, and this knowledge came it came like, to rescue me. It really did save my life. Pretty much overnight, it became my passion, my hobby, the only thing I cared about doing. I had more audiobooks in my phone than I had music at a point in time.
Wow, wow, wow. And
And
that's remarkable for a youngster who's growing up, especially here in India. We love our Bollywood songs, and there's a lot of peer pressure to do what everybody else is doing. And here you are, your phone or your gadget full of learning material. Okay, interesting.
this is where I started discovering how passionate I was about this subject. I started learning about human psychology. I started learning about different deeper forms of self change. That is when I first discovered NLP, I think somewhere around 21, 22. That's when I discovered it, and
Okay.
found it very interesting, found it very empowering. Started using some of the tools that I learned through NLP for my own life, because I was still, while I'd come out of the trauma, I was still living it, every now and then. I was still experiencing pain. I was still experiencing a lot of setback. There were things that would hold me back from giving my best. However, very soon there was one thing that I realized, that all of this learning and development really started showing results in my corporate career.
Wow.
Very soon, I became the blue eyed girl in the first company that I worked for. I work for ITC Hotels. I started my career with them. And
Interesting.
I started getting promotions, I started getting rewards, recognition. At the young age of 26, I was a leader, Simerjeet. I was managing a team of 60 plus people.
Wow.
And that was massive for me, that nobody who'd actually been a leader at such a young age. It was just me.
So
And
instead of playing the victim of circumstances, instead of allowing what had happened, which was beyond your control, to sort of push you back and to limit you for the rest of your life, you turned it around. You took charge of the situation. You empowered yourself. You discovered the tools that were out there for self mastery to heal yourself, and then you sort of channelized, redirected that energy into your workplace, and you accomplished massive results. Right.
absolutely, that's what I did. And it's not like I never felt like a victim. I lived like a victim for 2 years. But only after I realized that the dream was getting shattered, that I'm no more that ambitious girl with big dreams. I was born as an ambitious girl. I was born with big dreams. I was
Right.
always a happy child, but I really lost myself for those 2 years. And something inside me was very aware that no matter what, I am never going to go back to that place. I will do everything it takes to pull myself out. I'll do everything it takes to propel myself forward. And this learning, everything that I learned, the whole journal of self help, personal growth, leadership, and human psychology, understanding negotiation, persuasion, how to deal with people, how to communicate. It's a never ending journey. Like you can keep
I
on
agree.
learning if you want to, if you have
I
that
agree.
desire. So it became so interesting, and I became so passionate about it. And I saw results in my corporate career, so much so that after I moved out of ITC, when I was moving out of ITC, I was called for my exit interview by the divisional chief executive, by Mr.
Right. So
Nakul
for our
Anand.
viewers who might be from other parts of the world, who might be watching this
Yes.
right now, ITC is one of the country's premier hospitality luxury hotel chains. Right. So
Yes.
you decided to leave one fine day.
Yes, I decided to leave. And I decided to leave not because I was bored with my job. No, that was never the case. I think, in fact, the hotelier in me will forever be alive. Mr.
That's
Nakul
always
Anand
true, isn't it?
told
That's
me,
always true.
it's
I
true.
always joke around. It stays in your DNA. I say something. I joke around with my conference participants also. I said, look, it's been 13 years I left the industry, but still, any morning when I'm about to speak at a conference anywhere across the world, I'm usually wearing a dark suit with a light shirt. Typically, but with no name tag that says Radisson or Grand
Yeah.
Hyatt or Marriott any longer. However, still there's something in my body language that people would approach me and ask me for directions or where this conference is happening and so on and so forth. So I always joke about it that maybe it's something that gets embedded in your DNA, and rightly so. The hotelier never goes away, right, Deepti?
Absolutely. In fact, I've seen you noticing people even as you travel. Now, obviously, we've not traveled in a while, but considering I've been following you from the very start of my journey in this field, I have seen you appreciating people, making posts about them, and that always reminded me that that's the hotelier in you,
Absolutely.
recognizing people.
Because I've been on the other side. I know what not being
Absolutely.
recognized feels like. I know what
Yes.
being taken for granted feels like. So I was like, hey, if I can make someone's day, if I can write a thank you note. I used to carry these little printed blank notes with me, and I would just, sitting in the plane, if somebody's offered good service, I'll just scribble the name down. Thank you so much for your service today. And they'll come back to me many times, Deepti, with tears in their eyes. Oh my God, nobody's ever given me a handwritten note saying thank you. I've been working on this airline for 10 years. And all it takes is this thoughtfulness and 2 minutes of your time, and you make somebody's days. And that's all possible because I was on the other side. I've been on the other side, just like you have been too. So tell us, how did this, before we move forward to, okay, no, sorry. Now let's move forward to, so you decided to quit your job and you were not bored per se. So what was the driving factor? What made you, you enjoyed it? What led you to quitting and, venturing out into the next step, which we'll talk about shortly?
I fell in love with Bombay. I was based in Mumbai at that time, and they wanted me to move out from the city. So there was a transfer due. I'd been in Mumbai for several years. Now, the reason to move out of the company was never because I wanted to leave my career as a hotelier. I was very happy. I was very satisfied. It's a little overworked, no denying that.
That's part of the game, right?
That's a part of the game. So, but I was very happy, very satisfied. I loved my company. Okay. I went through all the challenges. I got all the support I needed. And I really owe whatever I am today. I think a large part of it comes from that tenure, what I spent at ITC Hotels. I still have very deep connections there back in that company. But I decided to move out because I was in love with the city. I loved Mumbai and I could not move out of the city. So the decision to move out was simply because I wanted to stay in the same city. And guess what? I had to eventually find my husband there. So perhaps that's the reason.
Right. Universe always has a plan. Always has a plan up the sleeve. Okay, great. So you quit, and then was there a period of reflection in between? After you left your job, so what prompted you to the next step, which was establishing your company in people development? What prompted that?
Which comes much after, Simerjeet. There was no reflection even till this date. As I said, at 21, 22, when I first discovered that I'm so passionate about this knowledge, okay, that is the age wherein I knew that someday I will do something in this field. What would it be? How would it be? I had no idea. I was so satisfied with my corporate career, the growth that I was seeing, the development that I was seeing in my own personal self that it never happened. To be very honest, to some extent, I did not have the risk appetite. I was growing, and that's how we've nurtured in our society. We've been told that, you're getting a promotion.
Yep.
Why do you want to take the risk?
Don't rock the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't do that. And that's how it is, right? When you keep on growing, the paycheck increases, lifestyle gets bigger. So who wants to take the chance? That was me.
Yep.
I moved out from ITC and I moved into real estate, luxury real estate. I worked in that industry for about a year and a half too. Okay. And again, a lot of learning there, basically handling sales, business development, dealing with some very important HNIs of the Western region in our country. That was great exposure. Then completely out of the blue and unexpected, another role that came my way, that was in British Airways. Okay. And that is where I joined as the high value manager for South Asia. Now I started working with the who's who of South Asia. I was working head to head and learning from the people in entrepreneurs organization, in young presidents organization, and basically the movers of shakers of this country. This was an absolutely dynamic opportunity. There was so much learning, there was so much growth, so many conversations that intrigued me further, that helped me learn about how the leaders of our country are living. What do they do on a day-to-day basis? How do they lead their businesses? I got the opportunity to work with people from so many different cultures. There were so many challenges. There were so many new things that I had to learn that earlier I perhaps thought that, I had become invincible. All of that was shed off. So I realized there's a new pedigree of learning that needs to be discovered. I had to master my communication, once again, go back to my negotiation skills, go back to understanding people better. This is the period wherein I dwell deeper into human psychology to understand how can I connect with people on a deeper level. Even now, though, Simerjeet, there was so much fancy in the profession that I was in that there was no desire to move out. There was absolutely nothing that was telling me that I need to start out on my own, other than the fact that I love this knowledge and this was a hobby. It was a passion that I was pursuing. Okay. Till 2018, something that happened that triggered me to make the change. I was invited by a very reputed college in India, in Delhi, okay, for a guest lecture. I
Okay.
was invited, and these are invitations that, keep coming throughout your career. Once you start rising in your career, you keep getting these. But this one was something that came from a very dear friend, from a school friend. So, of course, I had to take it up, and it was very important for me to give my best. So, I asked them, what would you like me to speak on? And they said, you can speak on anything. So the minute they say you speak on anything, I have to speak about my favorite topic. I had to speak about personal growth. This is the topic that I spoke to my husband about on our first date. on a very,
That must have been
on
an
a
interesting first
very,
date, right?
absolutely. On our very first day, I start talking to him about mindset, the power of the human mind, and what it can do, how it can
Yeah,
nudge
you
us in
didn't you
different
didn't manage to
directions.
scare him away, so
Yeah. So he told me that on our very first date, he told me that, you should follow a career in this field. You should be a speaker. You should be a public speaker. And I laughed
right.
it off. So
So it was always there
in
in it
2008,
was there while your stint at ITC. It was there lingering this thought. It was there while you were with other organizations. It was there popping up in your conversation with your loved ones. So it was there, but it was simmering beneath the surface. So yeah, we're interested. What brought it to the surface? What triggered it?
so this talk that I was invited for, okay, this guest lecture that I was called to give, and I was told that I can speak on any subject I like. That is the first time that I realized that I want to speak on personal growth. And the first time that I sat down, Simerjeet, to write my speech, because I'm quite orderly in nature, I'm very disciplined, very meticulous. So I knew that I had to write my speech, okay. And this is the
Okay.
first time that I sit down to write my thoughts instead of just, narrating them off the hook.
Being spontaneous.
As I decide to write this speech, I wrote for almost 6 straight hours.
Wow.
This is the first time that I realized how passionate I am about this subject, how deeply I'm involved, and how it basically really makes me come alive. There
Right.
was so much wisdom to share, there was so much to give. And I started writing, and I remember I worked on my speech about 3, 4 drafts.
Wow.
Till I finally came up with the final one. I remember I wrote down 6,000 words. It was a 90-minute speach.
And this was
And
the
I
very
just
first
went
time.
on.
This
This
was the
was the
very first.
very first time that I actually got the opportunity to speak on a subject that I love. While I was writing this speech, I had realized that this is
So
my calling. I'm born
you
to do this.
you experience what Professor Mihai Csikszentmihalyi talks calls flow. You were in a state of
Yes,
flow. Time stopped.
absolutely.
You didn't feel tired.
Absolutely.
It's effortless, and you're experiencing self growth and self fulfillment in the process. That's wonderful. So you poured yourself out. You felt as if there's some divine power is making this happen, and it's so much more effortless and enjoyable. Okay, great. And what happened after that?
So the day came, I gave my speech. By the end of my speech, I had students with tears running in their eyes coming to me. They said, we want your autograph. Nobody's ever told us anything like you've told us. Nobody's ever shared this wisdom with us. I later found out that the vice principal of the college was taking notes during my session. Now, I did not need any more proof. I knew that this is what I'm born
That
to
was
do.
your
And
aha moment. That was your aha
yes,
moment.
absolutely. And I came back home and I said, it's now or never. I'll take every risk that is needed. It does not matter, but this is what I'm going to do. And that's what I decided, that I have to launch my company and I have to find a way to be able to give this knowledge back to the world, to be able to share it. I realized that it came to me to rescue me out of the place that I was at. And had I not found it, okay, I would have not become who I was meant to be.
Absolutely.
And that the dots connected, everything connected itself. I realized that now is the time that I'm supposed to share this gift that was given to me.
Deepti, may I interject?
Yes.
There's several emails that we get, and so often we get youngsters or mid-career level professionals who are so sure about something that you've experienced. And perhaps I can relate to what you're saying because I went through a similar self-discovery cycle. And they know that there's something else that's larger than what they're doing right now. It's popping up in their conversations. They can visualize themselves doing it. They're talking about it, they're dreaming about it, they're scheming about it, they can feel that that's a strength area, and yet they hold back, and yet they ignore that calling, and they continue with being addicted to one of the world's most powerful addictions, which is a paycheck, right? Some out of habit and lack of risk appetite, and others out of genuine issues or circumstances or constraints. Based on your experience thus far, and you've come a long way ever since, you've achieved a lot, and what would you say to people who are on the fence right now and who like unsure about, there is a larger calling out there, I'm not sure what it is, and I'm afraid to answer it, I will ignore it, and then 30 years later I will regret it. What would you say to them based on your personal experience, Deepti?
Simerjeet, everybody that I work with, I nudge them in the direction to find their calling, to find their purpose. Okay, because that's really why we are here in this world. And one of the first things that I would like to say to people who are stuck in a place wherein they don't feel like they belong is to go on a journey of self-discovery. The courage that you really need to be able to follow your passion, to be able to live your purpose, will only come from self-awareness.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges in our society is that throughout our lives we are made to focus on our weaknesses. Okay, we've been told that this is your weakness. Okay, work on it.
Work hard to
I'm
overcome
saying
it.
work hard to overcome it. I'm saying that you need to see life very differently. You need to first focus on your strengths. Be aware of your weaknesses. You can't get rid of your weaknesses overnight.
Right.
Your focus has to magnify your strengths. Once you become aware, once you very clearly know yourself, once you understand yourself like a parent knows their child, if you can understand yourself to that extent and you can really learn that these are my strengths, these are what can propel me forward, these are what I need to continue magnifying, and be aware of your weaknesses, that is when you will be in a far better position to take a call as to how and what you can do to be able to really bring out your best forward.
The
That will
famous
bring you that self-confidence.
Sufi thinker Baba Bulle Shah, he said, "Pad ilm hazar kitabah, ਪੜ੍ਹ ਇਲਮ ਹਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਿਤਾਬਾਂ ਕਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਵੜਦਾ ਮੰਦਰ ਮਸੀਤੀ ਕਦੀ ਮਨ ਆਪਣੇ 'ਚ ਵੜਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ." So although self-awareness sounds like this in thing to do, based one of those latest fads from the West, however, we've had it around for centuries. Our philosophers, our thinkers have always talked about it. And I think it was Socrates who also said the unexamined life is not worth living. And you can see how these people from different cultures, different eras perhaps talked about the same thing. And yet we are flooded with so much information of the outside world. We perhaps know more about the functions on our smartphone than we know about our functions. So rightly so, Deepti, thank you for adding that. That self-awareness brings about this change. And that should be sort of the trigger, the pathway to lead you on to more powerful things.
Absolutely. In fact, this is one of the challenges that I find with leaders as well, the leaders that I work with. There is a missing sense of self-awareness, this understanding about their own emotional behaviors, their own characters, their own natures has not been there. One of the things, that I have observed in my career over the last 3 years, managing a people development firm, working with executives so closely, is that especially in our country for that matter, if somebody is good at a job and they continue to do it for a while, after some time they'll get the promotion that they've always wanted.
Right.
They will grow up the ranks. But after a certain point in your career, you're no more responsible for managing the job. You are basically responsible for managing the people who are doing the job.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that is something that most leaders don't understand. Unfortunately, we don't train our leaders to be leaders. We've never done that. We are simply helping them grow up the ranks, but we've never really taught them how to be leaders. We've never really taught them how to understand their own selves. Leadership is a skill of influence, and it's the most important skill that anybody can master. The ability to influence people, their thoughts, their emotions, to be able to bring out the best in them while you are there with them, and even in your absence for that matter. And that calls for first influencing yourself.
True.
Knowing yourself, understanding yourself. Unless you know yourself and understand yourself, how can you understand other people? How can you really understand the people in your team? How can you
And,
help
and,
them
and
bring
yet
out their
and
best?
yet that entire thing is at the very bottom of the agenda of so many leaders today, or corporate leaders, or business leaders, or leaders in public service. There's so many other things. The bottom line is there, the this impact, that impact, but understanding yourself, understanding your people. Where are we today? Where would we like to go? These four simple questions I often talk about. Where are you today? How did you get here? Where would you like to go? And how do you plan to get there? But so busy. So many leaders are so busy in firefighting due to poor systems, due to poor processes, due to poor training. The normal situations escalate and they become huge issues, and they spend their entire day in firefighting. In the end, with a false sense of accomplishment that I did something, which is not true. What a leader should be doing is spending time training, mentoring, envisioning, so many other things. But as you rightly said, we don't train our leaders to be leaders. We just leave them out there with greater accountability and say, okay, go bring more revenue in. In your LinkedIn profile, you mention successful leaders condition their minds. I love that. It's a very powerful statement. Successful leaders condition their minds. You talk about Serena Williams. You talk about Jeff Bezos, Sachin Tendulkar, Sundar Pichai. What would they have achieved without conditioning their minds? Talk to us, please, about conditioning your mind, not just for successful leaders, but for our viewers on LinkedIn and YouTube and other platforms, majority of whom are young professionals. How do they condition their mind for success, Deepti?
Conditioning our minds is something that is for everyone. Okay. And that's where I started my role, my career, and I took the risk of starting out on my own. The first challenge that actually came to me was applying everything that I'd learned for so many years to the T. I was applying it even earlier, but very selectively, only when I needed it. But this is the first time that I had to go back and start applying everything. And when I say condition your mind, what I really mean is that external motivation is something that can exist only for a short while. But when the
Right.
motivation can come from within, from your own mind, when your mind can nudge you in that direction to constantly take positive, productive action, when you become this person who knows that if I have to wake up at 5 a.m., I will wake up at 5 a.m. When your mind is supportive,
Are you one of those? Are you
when
one of the early risers,
when the
Deepti?
internal dialogue, the sound that comes from within, is very clear to say that it's 5 a.m. I need to get up. I have a big day. It's a bright day. I have so much more opportunity. When you know that you condition yourself to do the things that you must do, when you are at that place, and conditioning your mind comes with a lot of knowledge of human psychology. It is not something that is developed simply by positive thinking or having the right attitude or having a big dream and a desire, but it comes by understanding how your mind functions. You have to really do the inner work and understand. You have to go back and study and know how your mind functions. That's exactly why I include NLP in my trainings. Concepts like internal dialogue, how you communicate with yourself, power of visualization, power of imagination, all of these tools together come and help you really condition your mind to become that individual who can continuously focus on possibilities, solutions, and not so much on hardships and pain. See, challenges are here to stay in life. They're not going to go. Life would be too boring without challenges, in fact.
Absolutely. I agree. I
Okay.
agree.
If you can become that person who can surpass any challenge, who can see every challenge as an opportunity to grow, okay, and that's what you and I have done, right? When we faced the challenge back in 2020, as you've said so many times, you had to reinvent your whole business model, right? That's what
Absolutely.
I had to do too. I had some really large workshops planned for 2020, and that was a massive hit to us, Simerjeet. I wouldn't lie. Initially, we were, taken aback. There was almost a week of trauma where I was stuck, wherein I said I'll have to do all of this all over again. But we did reinvent ourselves. We did. We saw that as an opportunity. We actually found ways to grow and really focus, bring back focus and really think in the direction wherein there could be some solutions. What are the other possible opportunities that could come through? That is what conditioning your mind is all about. To really become that individual who can see in the right direction, who has a mind that supports him from behind.
I love that, and it deeply resonates with me in terms of, in essence, I think what you're also saying is to take charge of how you feel on a given day, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's perhaps the viewers would also agree with us here. There are days when you feel great about yourself, great about the world, great about the future, great about your past, great about the opportunities, and you go back into the same building, work with the same people, with the same tools, and you make vastly different decisions. You have these outcomes, huge outcomes, which are so different than as compared vis-a-vis to a day where you were feeling miserable about yourself, about your future, about your past, about the circumstances. The world's going to come to an end. You all think you have these negative thoughts, right? And you, in the same building with the same people, with the same tools, you make bad decisions. So a lot depends upon, I completely agree with that, that conditioning your mind and doing so on a daily basis is a very powerful tool, has been a very powerful ritual for myself, and it makes a huge difference in your outcome on a given day. Say, for example, like a 10-minute visualization in the morning, just my earphones are my best friends, so just putting on some nice music, visualizing, wearing my favorite pair of clothes, and putting on my best perfume, and just these little things which are, if you come from NLP, what is my favorite perfume doing to me? There is a connection. So I use Terry Hermes, which is one of my favorites, and I've used a lot of it, or I love perfumes, and so I have these few that I've used always before going on stage. And that's the thing, 2 or 3 that I've used always before I go on stage. So here's the connect. When I'm not traveling anywhere. I'm in my office. All I have to do is a virtual keynote. I still put that perfume on. And what it does for me, Deepti, is it brings me into the same state of mind as if I'm on stage again. Now, here I'm using a little mind hack. In fact, we were having a little conversation with the team today morning. I said, well, a lot of people say, Simerjeet, that guy started on YouTube way after you, and you're still stuck at 1.3 million. He's at 13 million subscribers. Look at that, 10x. That's what Deepti talks about, right? 10x. So they say, you should be doing something, Why are you just stuck on this? We only want organic growth and blah, blah, blah. I said, look, what if, for a moment, consider, what if I have 13 million subscribers? I've got a white Range Rover 2021 model parked downside. I've got that dream house. I've got that everything. And what will happen next? I will maybe pop the best champagne for 2 days in a row. I'll party. I'll get all my friends and we'll celebrate. We'll have a great time. And what after that? Simerjeet Singh is going to go back to work after that, right? The next day, I'll still show up in the same office, still in the same line of work. What will change? So I was just quizzing my team, and I'd like to quiz all our viewers as well right now. What will be different? I'm not going to carry the extra money in a bag with me to the office. I'm not going to bring my brand new car inside the office. What will change is how I feel about myself. That internal dialogue, as you rightly said, Deepti, it's changed. So my next question to my team in this morning when I was quizzing them is, what is stopping any one of us to have that positive internal dialogue right now? What is stopping us from feeling like that happy, accomplished, satisfied, rich, abundant person right now? If it's a feeling, and I can hack my brain, I can, break through these negative thought patterns and install something positive. There's nothing stopping me except my own mental laziness. If I've allowed my brain to be in this vegetative state of go to default, I'm leaving my brain unattended. I'm going to, update the software on my phones, on everything else, but I'm leaving this unattended. And what's going to happen? It's going to drift towards the negative, right? So we need inner work, as you rightly said, Deepti. Thank you so much for adding value on that. My next question to you is about leadership. You've done a lot of work around leadership. At an early age, you said you were given the responsibility of leading a large team, and now you coach a lot of leaders across the world. Tell us, A, what are the top challenges that leaders face? B, in your opinion, what do you feel good leaders do? And my third, so there's 3 parts to this question, and I will help you in case you forget. Let's just start with the most common challenges you come across when it comes to your leadership clients. Then what do you feel are the stuff most of them are doing right? And what do you feel the stuff that most of them get wrong?
I've been very fortunate to work with some very great minds, and most of the things that they've done are right, in fact. Okay, but I want to start with, on this question by first sharing my thoughts on leadership, because leadership is very dear to me. It's very close to me. I believe leadership is everything in today's day and time and has been forever. In fact, our entire existence, humanity, our reality has been shaped by leaders. We have innumerous examples in history about leaders who have nudged humanity forward in a positive direction, and we have innumerous examples of leaders who have let humanity down. We have examples from today's time and age.
I agree. I
There have
agree.
been leaders who have phenomenally managed the current situation. There have been leaders who've not been able to stand up to the
Right.
role,
Right.
the responsibility that they have towards society. And leadership is such a powerful dynamic tool. Leadership is such an important position. It is such a huge responsibility and not a privilege like many leaders do see it.
Yep.
Okay, towards the people, for the people. It's actually an opportunity to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. That's what leadership really is. Okay, and coming back to your question now, one of the biggest challenges that I have seen in leaders that I have worked with is the lack of self-awareness, the lack of understanding of their own psychology. The first thing that most leaders that I realized I've worked with is that they've never cared to condition their minds. They've been so busy in the corporate world, they've been so busy trying to drive results, trying to get things in order, trying to get that next promotion, trying to meet those KRAs and racing
Yep.
after the team, that they have completely forgotten to nurture themselves. They have never gone out to understand their own characters, their own strengths. They have a vague understanding of it, but when does anything bring you results? When it's vague, you have to get very detailed. See, understand one thing in the world, and this is for your audience also. There is a lot of conditioning that happens to human minds as we grow up in society. The
Indeed.
thing is that humans are creatures of who learn through observation. In fact, if you were to think about it, a 2-year-old kid speaks the language, okay, in whichever house that he is born in. It doesn't
True.
matter whichever
True.
part of the world that
It's
child is
not. It's
born
not
in.
what you say to
Yeah.
them as much as it's what they see and what they observe. Right.
Yes, absolutely. And we learn through observation. So this happens continuously. Now, in this observation, somewhere or the other, we get adapted to social conditioning. We develop certain belief systems, we have certain thought processes that over time start limiting us. What was working for you at the age of 15 doesn't necessarily have to work for you at the age of 50.
I agree.
If you still continue to believe that most people are selfish by nature and they're only out to play with you, then of course you can't be a people's leader. You
Right.
can't
Because you're
go with that
suspicious.
mindset.
Because you're suspicious all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're always trying to keep a check on your moves. You're always being calculated. Okay. In fact, that's why somewhere toxic leadership also originates. These are
Right.
basically coming from deep rooted beliefs that are coming from a place wherein you didn't have very good experiences in life, wherein somewhere or the other your social conditioning shaped your reality, your thought processes. So that inner work has not been done. That understanding of where you picked up the wrong belief systems, where are the thoughts wrong, where are you perceiving your situations in a different fashion from what they really are, that work has not been done in most cases. The second challenge, which is a very common challenge right now, and I think it's not just with leaders, I think it's across the board, it's strained relationships. Uh, it's easy to deal with people who are, who are outgoing and friendly. But at the end of the day, if you want to achieve anything significant in this life, you have to learn to work effectively with all kinds of beings.
Right.
Okay, it does not matter from where they come from, what their characteristic traits are, what their typical natures are. It's up to you to be able to make the most of that relationship. Because at the end of the day, if you can't learn to work with different kind of people,
The
you
chair
will
noise
really
has to
not
stop.
be able to achieve what you truly
लकीरें
so
check करने
want
बाद.
out of this life and really be able to contribute. Because contribution is your primary responsibility as a leader. So these are the two primary challenges: strained relationships and the inner work, not being able to understand yourself. The belief systems are flawed, the internal dialogue is flawed. Those are the things that we start with working on.
And yet the entire focus is on technology and learn, let's get the new piece of software, etc., while failing to understand that our people are going to make these things happen. It's people who drive software. Well, we don't know. Maybe AI gets to that level in a few years from now, where we where leaders will be replaced by more empathetic bots or something like that. But I'm just kidding. No, I believe that as machines get better, humans should get better at what we do. If machines get better at repetitive tasks or machine learning or doing the dull, dangerous, and dirty jobs for us, humans should get better, as you rightly said, on developing strong bonds, which is an even bigger challenge in these virtual times, because we're all stuck. Well, some of us are stuck at homes in environments that we do not want to be. And hence the domestic violence has gone up, divorce rates have gone up, so many other things have gone up. And the other side of this is that people who could network and collaborate under the same roof before have now to do so electronically and through all these tools. And that also means that the level of trust and so many other things goes down. Simple thing being, in so many Zoom meetings, it's just so hard to keep eye contact. And we were struggling with this issue for so long. And I thank my team and everyone involved in just trying to decode this one challenge. How do we maintain eye contact with the virtual audience? Because we had the camera sitting up there, we had the screen down here. So a whole lot of learning, unlearning, and relearning was involved. And as you rightly said, beliefs which served your purpose at 15 might not work at 50. And I would even say beliefs which worked in 2020 might not work in 2021. Or what worked in 2021, which is safety, security right now, to safeguard yourself from the virus. We might need to entirely get rid of this belief come 6 months from now. Maybe 6 months from now, we need to redo this whole mindset and say, hey, it's safe to go out there. Let's get back to business once again. Let's make things happen. And that residual fear of what happened during this entire very tragic time needs to go away. Deepti, you work a lot on personal mastery and leadership, both these areas. Personal mastery, a lot of people call it self-leadership and leadership. It's what are you doing within yourself? You're taking charge of your thought processes, and then you're trying to influence others. What's the link? Is there a strong link? What's the link? And how can our listeners improve that link in order to improve their influencing and leadership abilities?
Let me share an analogy, for all the audience, something that can help everyone that I usually share in my sessions. Now, think of your life as a structure. Okay, just like your home, the brick and mortar home, your life is also standing on 4 pillars. Pillar number 1 is your mindset and your emotions. Pillar number 2 is your relationships. Pillar number 3 is your health. And pillar number 4 is your career and finances. Together, all of these 4 pillars are holding your life on top.
So mindset, relationships.
Yes, sir.
Mindset,
I put mindset and emotions. Second one is relationships. The third one is health, and the fourth one is career and finances.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So now, what happens is that your mindset and emotions directly impact your relationships, both personal and professional. Okay. These 2 pillars together directly manage your health, both mental and physical. And 3 pillars together are eventually giving you the results on your career and your finances. At any point in time, if any one of these pillars was to get damaged, was to have some extra stress, what will happen? Your life, this structure will become shaky, will sort of lose balance. The rest of the 3 pillars will have to take extra pressure, will have to take extra responsibility. And we've seen that happen in all of our lives. I'm guessing everybody could relate to that. At the same time, if you want to achieve new heights in your life, if you really want to rise higher and higher, the only thing that you need to do is you need to build each of these 4 pillars simultaneously, brick by brick. You need to strengthen them, understand them. You need to make sure that the foundation is right for all 4 pillars. At the end of the day, Simerjeet, and you would agree when I say this, mindset and emotions control everything. This is the first pillar. Now, whatever you think gives you the emotion related to it. Your thoughts lead to your emotions. Your emotions actually control your actions, and actions actually determine your reality. If there is a disempowering emotion, there is lack of action. But naturally, the reality will not grow. If there is an empowering emotion, there is more empowering action. There is positive, productive action. And naturally, when you take continuous, meticulous, positive, productive action, you will magnify your reality. You can achieve anything you desire. So if you can master these 4 pillars and you can work on them and you can simultaneously build each of them. Another problem is that, throughout our lives, we've been taught to focus on career and finances. We've been told
it's been lopsided development. It's just focusing on one of the pillars, as you said, and perhaps that pillar is a bit more visible to the world. My career, my finances, I can perhaps display them a lot more to the world than my inner happiness or my emotional fitness and so many other things. And yet, as you rightly said, we've been conditioned to focus more on that, and hence we've ended up with a generation of people who are emotionally empty, right? And with the other pillars very strong, with very strong careers, with good finances and all that taken care of, but with relationships that are not working well, or with personal lives that are horrible, right?
And relationships are everything, both personal and professional. As I said earlier as well, that if you can't learn to work with people, if you can't nurture those relationships, if you can't have deep bonds, both at work and at home, okay, there's really not much of a difference. It's all about dealing with people. If you have that ability, if you know where you go wrong, if you have that ability to introspect and realize that maybe certain situations you were not the one who came up with the best mindset, okay, instead of just passing blame, if you have that ability to understand, you can nurture your relationships. But unfortunately, throughout our life, we've been told to focus on, on our careers. There's this one statement that rings in my head every time I say this, okay? And this is something that I heard my entire childhood. I still joke about it with my father. Said, "Beta, padhai kar lo."
कुछ
You know,
कुछ बन जाओगे और जो
you know.
threats होते थे ना, the sort of threats, creative threats parents would have around it, पढ़ाई कर ले वरना ये हो जाएगा.
And Simerjeet, you won't believe it. My father used to tempt me with nutties. There's this chocolate called nutties, Cadbury nutties. Used to be my favorite. Every time I would walk out of my room, the only thing he would tell me, "Beta, पढ़ाई कर लो, मैं nutties दूंगा." And I was like, "Dad,
driven
seriously?"
driven driven by chocolate, huh, Deepti? That you should have that to your LinkedIn profile too. Driven to success by
I
chocolate.
should.
Okay.
Chocolate, yes.
Right.
you know, I don't think there's any other statement I heard from him more than this one statement, "Beta, padhai kar lo." Okay, this was the this thing, and I even today, I go back now that I have whatever I've learned, and I share it with the rest of the world. I go back to him and I told him that, Dad, you never told me, to study about my emotions. You never told me, and you're a doctor. Even though he's a doctor, they've been trained. He understands it. He does nurture me. He motivated me a lot. But that formal study was never there. That culture never existed. We never were told to understand our emotions better. IQ was always more important than EQ. The
Right, your
concept of EQ
grades.
never
Oh
existed.
no, it never, it never. So we've had high performing folks with high academic qualifications, and yet who don't know how to take care of their emotions, and then that toxicity emerges at home in raising children, and we are very successful at passing it on to the next generation, and you have a broken generation after broken generation. And I was speaking to Dr. Shifali Sabari and Marissa Peer, both wonderful, accomplished women, and they said the best thing you can do is just to heal yourself. The best gift you can give to your next generation is to heal yourself, is to not pass on the baggage that was probably put on your shoulders, is to not pass it on to the next generation. Those self-limiting beliefs, those that toxic environment, those toxic conversations, that's the best thing you can do for your kids. And often we overlook it for the sake of, because, I always, this probably might make sense to you too. Wherever we focus, that's where we get more output, right? So if the entire focus of an individual is around money and accomplishments and material success, great, you'll get it, but at some cost. So for me, luckily, I was happy in the sense, I was lucky in the sense that my dad would often say, "Beta, exercise kar le." So that would often, that was dad. Mom was like always right in the middle, theek hai. But mom would more be like, her affirmation, like, तुझे जो करना कर ले, तेनू जो करना कर ला, तेनू जो दिल कर देगा. Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't be where I am today without that liberty. Without, I never would be. I'll share with you a very interesting example. So I was in grade 6th, and where we lived in front of our house, we had this plot of land that had been lying vacant for a long time. And you know what happens in India? I grew up in a small town, and so an unclaimed plot of land which does not has a boundary wall becomes a dumping ground for everybody. You don't even have to put up a notice on it; it becomes a dumping ground. So it was in a horrible situation. So I was in grade 6, and I thought, why could we do something about it? It was my summer break. So I went out there, and with a kai, that's what we call it in Punjabi, and I don't know, not an axe, I don't know the exact English translation for it, but this is the instrument you use to move soil from one place to another. I started clearing it out in the summer heat myself, all by myself. My mother knew it was the jo karna kal. So she saw me at it for 1 day and 2 days, and the next day, other kids in the neighborhood are suddenly interested in what I'm trying to do. "What are you trying to do here?" I said, I'm going to clean this patch of land, and I'm going to grow vegetables here. That's a sixth grade, right? Sixth grade kid. Really? Can we help you? I said, well, not all of you. I played that little Tom Sawyer trick there. I said, well, I'll see. It's a very important job. Who is up for it, right? So starting from just me, we now had 4 or 5 kids working on it, and everybody saw that all these kids are so into it. So somebody pitched in with a tractor. I said, okay, we'll make it easier for you because there were certain big stones, etc. So somebody brought in a tractor. That entire patch of land was cleared for us, now cultivable. Now we were able to cultivate it, and so we planted just, vegetables, brinjals and ladyfingers and tomatoes and green chilies and mint and all those sort of things. This whole thing lasted for a few months, but here's why I'm sharing this. If I did not have the liberty from my parents to go do your thing, man, go do your thing. That non-intervention. Dr. Wayne Dyer used to talk about it a lot, practicing non-intervention. That non-intervention was my gift. You do what you want to do. Because when you're not intervening, what's happening? The innate gifts are coming to the front, right? Nature takes over. Instincts take over, and you're solely drifting into the direction of what you really want to do. So if I wouldn't be a speaker today, I'll definitely be an organic farmer or something. But that's my story there. So thank you.
Still do that, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, well, probably side by side. Let's see how things shape up. It's been a really interesting conversation here, Deepti. I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Before we go, Simerjeet, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
My first question is to say that you've had a very interesting and a very rapidly growing career. Are there any particular traits that you would say or qualities that really helped you become who you are today, your entire journey? Do you think that there have been some particular qualities that about yourself that have brought you where you are?
So a little minor correction there, Deepti. Interesting, yes, but rapidly growing, no. So perhaps what you see now or in the last 3-4 years is the outcome of what the inputs went in the 7 years before. So definitely interesting every single day, right since 2007. And that's why I ventured on this journey. That was the whole purpose. Definitely very interesting. Was it rapidly growing from day one? The answer is no, it wasn't. And that's where the fun is. And that's where the satisfaction of being where I am today is to see how things work, how accomplishments happen. You see the outcome of something and you say, wow, this is good. I'd like to have it. I'd like to do that. And perhaps what is behind the covers or not visible to the world is the several years of single-minded focus. So I started my journey in 2007 when I hit the reset button, the Control-Alt-Del of my life, saying, okay, this screen is frozen. I need to reboot. I need to leave what I was doing, leave the hospitality industry, move back here, the whole story. You probably know it. Viewers have heard it several times. But for a good 6 years, I was a solopreneur. It was just me and my wife at it. There's the two of us running this whole thing, good 6-7 years. And so many days, I just remember putting in hours and hours doing my research, writing my content, my meditation, my other things. And that journey, perhaps no one knows about. And so what the world sees is today, where I am today. So a lot went into it, and I'm so happy that it did. I'm so happy that it was not fast-tracked, because I would have missed out on so much. So what helped me on this journey? A couple of things. Number one was innovation, to think differently, be creative. Your limitations could be your biggest gifts. So my limitation was when I moved back from the UK to India. Now my home is I grew up in Batala district, Gurdaspur, but then the family moved to Jalandhar, which is still a tier 2 city. It's not Hyderabad, it's not Mumbai, it's not Delhi. It's not where the action happens per se. So when I moved back, for a moment I considered, let me move to a bigger city in India. Let me move to Hyderabad, Bangalore, etc., etc. Let me relocate. And then I thought, what's the whole point of being back home if I'm not back home? If I'm not back to where I belong? So I said, no, it doesn't make sense, right? I'm going to stay put here. Which was, if you would look at it as a constraint, a slight constraint. However, it turned out to be my biggest gift, because I was forced to be innovative. I could not go visit the top corporations of this country in person. I could not hire a business development manager sitting here, somebody else in another city doing that. I had to rethink how to market my services, how to tell the world this is what I do. So 2007 is when we started all digital. It started with the website, it started with search engines, it started with so many other things, social media, when all of these things were still new and not many people were used to them, especially the established players. So they didn't see it coming. It was good for me. We got time. I got plenty of extra time to work on things that I needed to. So turn your constraints into your weapons of progress, right? Look at them from a different perspective. Is this really a constraint? Well, if you look at it from a disempowering perspective, it might be, but hey, could you look at it differently? This might be a blessing. So every single one of those things, including the lockdown period here, the same spirit. So, okay, now our traditional way of working has been challenged. How do we reinvent it? What are the tools? What are the processes? What are the softwares? What do we need to do? So that ability to think differently, I think risk-taking was number two. Constantly raising the bar on what we do. And consistency. I think you really have to show up. Half the job isn't just showing up. Show up to work every day in your best mood. That's really important. Don't just drag your physical body there. Also bring with it your best possible emotions, your best possible mood. That's really, really important. And a lot of people underestimate the power of this. You know, when you're there in your work environment, you've showed up and you're proud, you're happy, you're in the right mindset. A lot of new ideas are going to emerge, and that's where you begin to take action. So these 3 or 4 things, I think consistency, and now lately building a team. I've realized the power of having a team, a wonderful team who I'm deeply grateful to, do a lot of things. They take care of a lot of things so I can focus on what I need to be focusing on. But I did not have this luxury when I started. So I was a solopreneur for a really considerably long period of time. Until then the team happened. So it's been a interesting ride.
Yes, and I could see that. It shows up in your personality, in the way you conduct yourself, the way you talk, even your videos, your aura, your energy. As I told you, I have been a fan of your work from the very start of my career. When I started off in this field, the first thing I had to do is I had to understand who are the existing people,
Right,
who are
right.
doing the same kind of work. And you're the worst one, Simerjeet. I can't tell you. I've been following you on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on
Thank you.
Instagram, everywhere. My whole
Thank you.
team knows, that I was super excited to be interviewing with you today.
Well, say hi
And
to them.
yes, I will. I absolutely will. And
Thank you.
the reason they know it is because, I keep talking about you, about the
Mm,
kind of posts that you make. My clients share videos, your videos on WhatsApp with me.
thank you. Deeply, deeply
And I
grateful
can,
to the Almighty
yes.
for to be in
Yes.
a position to do all this work.
Yes, and it shows that you work very hard to come where you have. And that's why I asked you the question that I did,
I
because
appreciate
I
that.
know there's been a journey. Yes.
Hmm.
My second question to you. Uh, do you ever wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Okay. Do you have, when you wake up and you realize you're having one of those days, everything seems like it's out of order and you don't really have the hope, even though you've been working hard on a particular project? Does that ever happen to you? And if it happens to you, how do you handle it? What do you do?
Well, let me first do away with the myth that a lot of people, the misconception that a lot of people have about motivational speakers and coaches. That the moment we were born, in the C-section or in the hospital, we were like, "Wow, I'm gonna change the world, nurses, let's dance, let's go, we're gonna change." That's not how it is. So definitely yes, I do have the days when I struggle to bring forward that same enthusiasm or the same spark. And I'm reminded of a couplet by a Urdu writer who said, "जिस दिन सब कुछ तुम्हारे हक में चल रहा हो, उस दिन गरूर मत करना." So दिन दो तरीके के होते हैं. Your days will be split into 2 categories. On the days and everything is working in your favor, on the day everything is not working in your favor. So जिस दिन सब कुछ तुम्हारे हक में चल रहा हो, उस दिन गरूर मत करना, और जिस दिन सब कुछ तुम्हारे खिलाफ चल रहा हो, उस दिन थोड़ा सब्र जरूर करना. So I think that is there's profound wisdom on those lines, which I try to follow. Is
It is
the day that you
beautiful.
realize, okay, it's probably things are not working out the way I would want them to, is the time to maybe step back, take a deep breath in, and be patient. Things will fall into place, and then put things into perspective. Now, sometimes we just overwhelm ourselves by blowing things out of proportion. A challenge is not as big as we create it. We make it bigger than it is by excessively, obsessively focusing on something. So all I need to do is just on this, take a step back and probably realize the tank is empty. It's an indication. Empty tanks, you can't travel very far. Your car won't go very far on an empty tank. So you just have to say, hey, this car needs refueling. It's a nice BMW 7 Series, state of the art, Tesla, or whatever, one of the best. But hey, buy a Lamborghini, buy whatever you want to, and the tank is empty. It's not going to go anywhere. It's the same with yourself. So I don't blame myself those days, right? Man, you're not good enough. You're not doing this. No. Wrong strategy. Right strategy says, you need to fill yourself up. You drained out, you're getting close to burnout, it's time to fill yourself up again. So maybe take a short break, just step back, pause, do something that fills you up. So what is it? Meditation, music, prayers, dancing, gardening, spending time with my daughters, whatever fun, cooking activities, spending time with friends, or those simple things, and you come back and say, now, I'm full, I'm feeling better than before. And I believe in the Zen philosophy, which says, if you are carrying an empty cup, there is not much you can do to fill other people up. You cannot help the world. So you got to be a little selfish there and make sure that you're in the right vibrational place. Because at the end of the day, our line of work, Deepti, is all about vibrations. It's not repetitive work. Unlike so many other professions, it's not like that. So your emotions play a huge role in the sort of content that you will create and the sort of impact that you will leave on the world. So yes, there are certain self-care practices, typically around meditation, prayer, exercise, physical exercise, taking a break, that help me get back on track.
Absolutely, just what I wanted to know. It is so important to love yourself first, nurture yourself first, as
Indeed.
you rightly said. Only if you have abundance of something can you go out and share it.
Agree.
If
Agree.
there's scarcity in your own self, you really can't give out to the rest of the world. My
Agree.
third question to you, and the last one,
Sure.
is to ask you that I have seen you, talk about constant and never-ending improvement. You talk about learning, growth so much, so frequently in your videos and even in your interviews. Is there any aspect about yourself that you still struggle on, or perhaps, continue to try and improve? Because you're all human, right? There's always something or the other that we have to improve about ourselves. So anything about your personal self that you feel that you're still working on and still trying to get better on? Could be anything, maybe just health related or something that you're in pursuit of.
I think what I'm in pursuit of, and which will, and I'm getting there, and which will have ripple effects in every other area of my life, is practicing the art of letting go a bit more than I currently use it. So letting go and surrender, which does not mean running away from your challenges, but which means allowing the universe to assist you a little bit more. Trusting that divine force, that divine energy to do the work that you want to be done, through you, to trust it a little bit more, and to sort of let go of that control that you feel will make everything happen. So that misconception that comes in every now and then, hey, I'm the one who's making everything happen. So which kicks in every little while, nature of how we operate. Of course, we worked hard on a project and you have the desired result. You worked really hard on a virtual keynote, 2 weeks, and wow, it went flawless. And you could be susceptible to thinking, I made it happen, right? What you don't realize is there's a thousand different things beyond your control which worked well for you, man, and you should be thankful for them, including your internet connection.
Yes.
Right? Which is one of the challenges these days with virtual presentations, right? There are 1,000 things which worked flawlessly so that you could do what you wanted to do. So never ever take that. So it's just to pause at that moment and say, it's not you. Don't get into this you, me, I obsession. It's a lot of components coming together, and to have that sense of gratitude, which I do. But I think if there is something that I want to move closer towards, is towards a sense of surrender, towards a sense of letting go and trusting divine energy more and more, because it already knows. I believe this. It's a knowing that the divine energy, the universe already knows what's the best, quickest, shortest way for you to get where you want to get. We get in the way at times. So once we get out of the way and let the universe do its job, it's probably a lot easier, a lot more fun. And that's what I would like it to be, Deepti. I don't want this time to be a punishment. My wife was asking me the other day, I said, she's saying, you're doing these interviews back to back, and it's even on a Saturday morning, you're up at the same time, you're going to work, and you're going to exhaust yourself. And I said, no, it does not seem like work. It's fun. The day it feels like a chore, the day it feels like an extra burden, I would rethink it. But until then, I'm going to play along and have fun. And as I reflect back, maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now, I would want to look at this segment of time as having fun, more important, that I enjoyed the journey. It's not about getting somewhere. It's not about getting from 1.3 million subscribers to 13 million subscribers, 10xing my subscribers or 10xing my revenue, which would be great. I'm all for it. Please, nobody get that misunderstanding that I'm against it. I'm all for abundance. I'm all for achievement. But at the same time, understand the goalpost will always move. After 13 million, it's going to be 14 million and more, a little bit more. So it's going to be a never-ending process. So for me, the conclusion is very simple. I got to enjoy the journey, and I have to follow my advice a bit more on that, and that's what I would like to achieve.
Very well said, Simerjeet. I couldn't agree more. This is exactly a similar conversation I had with my husband day before. I have a habit of going to bed by 9:45, 9:30. Okay, because I want to wake up at 4:45. Something I started doing only 3 years back after I started my company. So he tells me that you sleep too early. Don't you? This is too much discipline.
Right. Well,
And I said, but I enjoy it. I thoroughly enjoy it. I wouldn't do anything better. Every Sunday, where I force myself to take an off. So we work half days of Saturday, and
oh,
from
wow.
3 p.m. we stop work. And Sunday is off. It's like a compulsory off. Wherein also I have this desire to go back and open my laptop, but I force myself not to do that. I'm really waiting for Monday to arrive.
Yeah, that tells you you're in the right direction. That does tell you you're in the right direction. And what you said about discipline, I certainly agree with it. Discipline is painful, but regret, it's even more painful. Ladies and gentlemen, please give up a big round of applause for our wonderful guest today, Deepti Pathak.
Thank you so much, Simerjeet, for having me. It has been a real pleasure. And,
Absolutely. I thoroughly
morning.
enjoyed our conversation today, Deepti. Thank you so much for taking out the time. It's lasted way longer than we originally intended it to be, and that just reflects that we were able to connect around areas where we feel passionate about, and we hope that all the viewers will be able to benefit from this conversation. Do look up Deepti's profile on LinkedIn and her official website for more tools and resources. And if you want to invite her for a keynote speech or for personal performance coaching, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Once again, Deepti, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.